Yesterday I had a conversation on Twitter. There's a child actually saying things about nationhood and everything. They're talking about Israel and stuff. And I said, it was something about marriage actually. Somebody had put out a video saying that if a woman marries and if a Yoruba woman marries, somebody, they should call, she has to be Yoru Igbo, and then they have children, they have to speak both languages, whatever.
Can Christian marry Muslim?
Now, in the Bible says we must not be unequally yoked with unbeliever. So what we preach is Christian should marry Christian. So can Igbo marry Yoruba? Can Yoruba marry Ijo? Yes, perfect. But we have a lot of things to do. Our food are different. You need to. That's why when you marry an Igbo man, you are no more a Yoruba. You are no Igbo. You are Yoru Igbo. You are Yoru Igbo. Until that one sound in your head, you cannot make that marriage work. You are Yoru Igbo. When Igbos are abusing Yoruba, Yoruba abusing Igbo, you don't put mouth. You don't put mouth. And you don't insist that the way Yoruba dress is the only way you will be dressing. I have a pastor friend who is married to an Igbo girl. The first time we met, I visited his house. I met the first son came around. I said, what's your name? He said, my name is Adideji. The second one came, he said, my name is Ike. I began to think, which Yoruba word is Ike? Which Yoruba name is Ike? I didn't. So after some time, the boy came back and said, what's the meaning of Ike? He said, my name is Ikechukwu. So when the man came and said, your son is bearing Ikechukwu. Why is he bearing Ikechukwu? Are you a He said, yes, my wife is
Igbo.
Is Igbo. So in this house, on Monday we eat Yoruba food, on Tuesday we eat Igbo food. He said, my children can speak Igbo, they can speak Yoruba. That's somebody that's ready. They've married for almost 32 years now.
So I said that it's important that people understand identity, and that at the core of things, once people start doing I'm here, I'm there, I mean that when they start saying I'm here and there, most times they end up being neither here nor there. And I said something about nationhood, and then the person comes about and says, oh, but Israel has different ethnic groups in there, different tribes. And I said, when Joseph married his wife, who was Egyptian, the children did not become Hebrew Egyptian. When Boaz married Ruth, the Moabitess, the children did not become Hebrew-Moabites. When Moses married his wife, who was Midian, the children did not become Hebrew-Midianites. They just became Hebrew. It's funny that in our own mind, when a Fulani person marries somebody, àfi tó wá fẹ́ fi lò fún a particular purpose, ní Fulani ló máa jẹ́, Hausa ló máa jẹ́, tí Yorùbá bá ti fẹ́yàn kan ló máa pè, wọ́n máa ṣe hyphenated identity. All of that to say that when I wrote that, the person then came up and said, oh, but Israel has many tribes and Nigeria has many tribes. And that thing, we have to disabuse our minds. Yoruba is not a tribe in Nigeria. Yoruba is not a tribe. The word tribe actually reduces you to something primitive in the eye of the colonial masters or colonialists. I don't even like to call them, they're no master of anybody, colonialists. The idea that Yoruba is a tribe is demeaning and is actually nonsensical. Yoruba is not a tribe. Yoruba is made up of its own tribes. There are several tribes that make up Yoruba nation. And there is one example I want to give you. I don't know if you've ever thought about it. There cannot be Yoru Igbo, like the man said in his video, but there can be Jebu Jesha. We can hyphenate our own tribes within ourselves. We don't do international hyphenation. Ijebu Jesha. There's a hyphen somewhere there. Ijebu is a tribe of Yoruba. And you know the funny thing, even the Ijebu tribe on its own has several towns within it. There's Ijebu, there's Jesha. That's why you hear of Ijesha land, Obokun of Ijesha land, Ijebu land, Awori land, we together Yoruba land. So this thing where people have to reduce Yoruba to a tribe in order to make Nigeria a nation is nonsense. Nigeria is not a nation. It is a country of many nations. And Yoruba happens to be a nation, not a tribe, made up of several tribes. And those tribes, you might get into some of those tribes and discover that some of our tribes are bigger than some countries in Europe. They are Yoruba tribes, not Yoruba nation. They are Yoruba tribes that are bigger than Luxembourg. The Yoruba tribes that will swallow up Malta. We have to have this understanding. Just because we are in one cocoon called Nigeria does not in any way remove this understanding. It's the same way the Scots think. Scotland is a nation without sovereignty, but it's a nation. By the way, speaking of Scotland, there was a poll. Let me see if I can quickly find it. There was a poll a couple of days ago. Because when we say things and some clowns go around shouting tribalism, it's important to say how not too smart they are. I need to find these things. Very important. I saw it earlier. There was a poll, for referendum. They're going to have a referendum now to have a separate nation. The point is that I don't know where it's. I'll see if I can find it. Okay, found it. New poll shows Scotland be an independent country. Now, even while it's still inside the UK, that national identity has not been taken away from them. The people who move for things like this, you know what they call them in Scotland or even in Britain? They call them Scottish nationalists. You talk like this in Nigeria, you are called a tribalist. You speak like this in the UK, you are called a nationalist. Why do we call ourselves tribalists? Because our minds have been filled with nonsense to the point where we now look down on ourselves. How exactly is Scotland, England, Wales, or Northern Ireland any better than Hausa or Ibibio or let's even Yoruba, even we Yoruba or Igbo or any of these ethnic groups in Nigeria? All of that to say, when Papa kept repeating Yoruba nation, we should remember it would be lovely if sovereignty comes, but before, with or without it, know who you are. Right? You are not, and when you speak like this, you are not a tribalist, you're a nationalist. I mean, after all, we're not hating on anybody, say, oh, bigotry. There's no bigotry here. There's just knowing exactly what it is. So in Scotland, they had this thing, Scottish grains. They had a new poll. Apparently, majority want Scottish independence, which also tells us that some of these things that people talk about is not because of hate, and it's not because there is no development in the country. It's because they're trying to find their identity. The only difference between them and us is that once they become to pay, what in system to there's a system, and this is what I want to quickly say to folks who are always talking about let's break up. There is a system in UK. That system, you can only create that system in Nigeria, just like they did in UK, using political means. The system is just one word: referendum. We don't have it in our constitution. They have it. And the last one, Scotland or one, they didn't have the majority. But now this is a poll, by the way, just a poll. But the thing is, a lot of the things that we desire is a marathon, not a sprint. You have to have that mindset. But first of all, understand. Let's gbà. Orílẹ̀-èdè ní Yorùbá. Nigeria ń ṣe orílẹ̀-èdè. Kí ni èdè Nigeria? Kò sí. Orílẹ̀-èdè. Alédè kan. Àwọn Gẹ̀ẹ́sì orílẹ̀-èdè kan ni wọ́n. Àwọn tó jẹ́ Scott orílẹ̀-èdè kan ni wọ́n. Yorùbá orílẹ̀-èdè kan làwa náà. Bóyá wá lè sọ pé a jẹ́ aníjọba tó lè máa bá àwọn ará bòmíì ṣe. That one is anyway. The point I'm trying to make is, I think you get it. Nigeria is a country made up of several nations, and within Nigeria or outside Nigeria, you can thrive as a Yoruba person, and that understanding is actually the thing that can get us what we want, whatever it is, including developing our land. And I should say this also. There's this thing that you hear a lot. about, different people agitating for different things. I want to ask, you don't have to answer the question, it's a rhetorical question. Why are we agitating, or why do we want what we want? Is it for the development of Yorubaland, or for ego and just a person's pipe dream? If it's to develop Yorubaland, then you do it now. Whatever you want to do then, you will do it now. Let me tell you one of the things that I was studying. I love Singapore a lot. Not because of the country itself, but because of Lee Kuan Yew. After our war, for me, after our war, the next person is Lee Kuan Yew. My understanding of nation building. There's something I found out. I think it was Deng Xiaoping who traveled to, if I'm not pronouncing the name correctly, it's because I'm not Chinese, who traveled to Singapore, and I had this conversation with Lee Kuan Yew when they were trying to change course from what Chairman Mao had instituted in China. And then he went to Singapore, of course, a smaller nation, but there's something quite interesting about the connection between China and Singapore. And the connection is simple. 75% of Singapore is Chinese. And at the core of what they're doing in Singapore is Chinese ideology, Chinese philosophy. Anyway, here's the point. China then learned from Singapore and then replicated what Singapore was doing in China. And China is now what we talk about. When people go around shouting, China went to China, they don't know jack. They don't know what they're saying. It's not about the things they are doing. It's about who they are. It's about your identity. It's about who you are. It's bigger than just production to clinical. It's not talking points. They're deeper. The connection between those two places is the fact that they're Chinese. I didn't say that, Lee Kuan Yew said that. But here's the crazy part. What they did in China was what was done in Singapore, a small nation state, just a small island. And the lesson I took from them, many lessons, but one of the lessons I learned from, studying Singapore and China is that whatever you want to do in China, do it in Singapore. The men leading the economic development team in Singapore were the ones that moved to China to help them in different regions, whether it was Shanghai or it was I don't know those Chinese names, but they went to different cities, creating hubs in different cities, modeling those cities and hubs after Singapore that they are built. Jesus said something very powerful. He said, whoever is faithful in little is faithful in much. He didn't say whoever is faithful in little will be faithful in much. Jesus said, whoever is faithful in little is faithful in much. All this thing about what we're going to do when we have a fantastic nation that is a Kinekon Yoruba, do it now. That's the point. We have to do it now. If we do it now, then we'll replicate it and make it bigger. Let's not wait until the time when everything is now what we think it should be. There'll be new problems. It's just the way of life. It's not because you're praying for a while. Every new levels have new devils. That's what they say, right? There'll be new problems. But if we can build now, right? When we get there, we'll have something to pick from what we are doing right now. Or maybe the job will be away, but I hope right? And to find our place in whatever is happening in Yorubaland, because we are the ones we've been waiting for. Because if you are the leader of tomorrow, what will you tell your children? Especially if your kids you have teenage kids or you have kids in university. If you think, I mean, saying it out loud now just makes me feel like, boy, we'll be deceiving ourselves with all this leaders of tomorrow nonsense. I mean, it's not nonsense, but I mean, at this level, at this age of many of us, it should be rubbish now. Your children will now call, I did the leader of the day after tomorrow, because they should be the leader of tomorrow now. All right, God will help us, and gbèrú sí gbogbo nǹkan tí àwọn aṣáájú wáyé lọ́kàn Ọlọ́run yẹ kó yẹ pé àwa la máa lè ṣe. Irú bàbá tó ń pọ́n wọ́n máa pé 100 ọdún ní ọdún tó ń bọ̀, nígbà tí wọ́n bá fi máa gbé 100 ọdún, inú wọn á dùn pé àwọn àlá táwọn ní, àwọn èròǹgbà táwọn ní lọ́kàn wọ́n bẹ̀rẹ̀ sí í rí. Ó lè jẹ́ nípasẹ̀ àwọn gómìnà, ó lè jẹ́ nípasẹ̀ àwọn aṣojú ṣòfin, ó lè jẹ́ nípa àbí amójú amòfin, ó lè jẹ́ nípa àwọn aṣojú-ṣòfin, the representatives, ó lè jẹ́ nípa àwọn àgbẹ̀ àbáwá tá a fẹ́ ṣe oríṣiríṣi nǹkan tá a fẹ́ ṣe nílẹ̀ Yorùbá. Ṣùgbọ́n the important thing is that before they die, people like this should actually see Yorubaland become something. Ó lè má débẹ̀ tán kan tó lọ, but at least a máa ti ṣe ju ibi tá a wà lọ́sìn. We're not just going to maintain the status quo. We're going to build and make Yorubaland better. Lágbára Ọlọ́run. All right.